I spent months planning my sister's baby shower, then I showed up and saw that she had already had one without me. I stood there in Sop's living room gripping the bag of decorations in one hand and a carefully wrapped gift in the other, my heart pounding in my chest. It didn't make sense. The table was still covered with plates and half-eaten cake. Wrapping paper littered the floor. A few stray balloons were tied to the backs of chairs. The whole room had that unmistakable after-party feeling, like something big had just happened and I had missed it. I forced myself to swallow as my eyes darted around the room. My mom was sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone. A couple of Sophie's friends were chatting in the corner, their voices light and happy, and Sophie, my sister, the one I had spent months planning this shower for, stood by the kitchen counter looking at me with wide, guilty eyes. Emily, she started, tucking a piece of hair behind her ear, but before she could finish I heard a voice from the dining room, cheerful and oblivious. Sophie, did you see the pictures I sent from the shower? That cake was amazing. I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. The shower. I turned back to my sister, my grip tightening around the bag in my hand. You already had one. Her mouth opened, but no words came out at first. She looked like a deer caught in headlights. Oh, it wasn't a big thing, she said, quickly waving a hand like she could erase what I had just heard. Just something my friends put together totally last minute. I meant to tell you. Meant to tell me. I stared at her, barely able to process what I was hearing. I had spent months planning this. I had coordinated the invitations, picked the perfect theme, made sure everyone's schedules lined up, arranged catering, decorations, even planned a little activity where guests could write letters for the baby to open when they turned 18. I had worked extra hours so I could afford a really nice gift, a memory book filled with handwritten notes and photos from Sophie's childhood, something she could pass down to her baby. And the whole time she had known that there was already a shower. She had let me plan something that was never going to happen. My stomach twisted as I glanced around the room again, my brain catching up to the reality of it all. All the people in the pictures I had on my invite list, they were here. They had already been here. They had celebrated Sophie. They had given her gifts, played the silly baby shower games, eaten cake, taken pictures, and not one person had thought to ask why I wasn't there. I felt stupid, like an absolute idiot, standing there with my bag of decorations, like some clueless outsider who hadn't gotten the memo. Sophie must have seen it on my face, because she rushed to add, Emily, we can still do yours. It'll be like a second shower, more gifts, more fun, right? She let out a nervous laugh, glancing at my mom for support. Mom, who hadn't even looked up from her phone, like this wasn't even worth acknowledging, like I wasn't worth acknowledging. That was when it hit me. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't some mix-up. They didn't forget to invite me. I just wasn't included. Sophie wasn't scrambling because she felt bad about what happened. She was scrambling because she got caught. I swallowed the lump in my throat and let out a slow breath. No, Sophie, she blinked. No. What? I shifted the bag of decorations in my hand and said as calmly as I could, I'm not throwing a second shower. For a split second, she just stared at me like she couldn't quite believe what I had just said. Then she forced out another awkward laugh. Come on, and don't be dramatic. This doesn't have to be a big deal. But it was a big deal. I had been looking forward to this for months. I had imagined Sophie walking into a room filled with people who loved her, surprised and happy and grateful. I had imagined her hugging me, thanking me, saying, I don't know what I'd do without you. Is that I had been left out, and no one, not Sophie, not my mom, not anyone, had even noticed. I set the bag of decorations down on the kitchen counter. Slowly, carefully, I placed the wrapped gift beside it. Sophie frowned. What are you doing? I'm leaving. She stepped toward me, her voice laced with that same forced cheerfulness she used whenever she was trying to smooth things over. Emily, come on. You're overreacting. That word, overreacting, I had heard it a million times before. Every time Sophie had done something selfish, every time I had gotten my feelings hurt, every time I had called her out on something, and every time I had let it go. Not this time. I took a step back, keeping my voice even. You should open the gift. You like it? Sophie's mouth opened like she wanted to say something else, but I didn't give her the chance. I turned and walked toward the door, my heart pounding. No one stopped me. No one called my name or ran after me or even asked if I was okay. I stepped outside, the cold air hitting my face. As I made my way to my car, I climbed and shut the door and just sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, staring at the house I had spent so much of my life in. And for the first time I really saw it. I had always been the responsible one, the one who made sure things got done, the one who picked up the slack, who planned, who organized, who took care of things. And Sophie, he had always been the one who took. I had told myself for years that it didn't matter, that I didn't mind being the reliable one, the planner, the helper, that it was just my role in the family. But standing in that living room looking at the party I was never meant to be a part of mattered more than I ever wanted to admit. I took a deep breath, started the car, and pulled away from the house. Without looking back, I didn't call Sophie, I didn't call my mom, I didn't ask why, I just let the silence sit, and I waited, because one thing I knew for sure, they were about to notice my absence. I didn't go home right away. Instead, I drove around for a while, my mind racing, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my fingers ached. I wasn't sure what I was even feeling, anger, embarrassment, some kind of deep aching sadness. All I knew was that I couldn't believe what had just happened. I had spent months planning something for Sophie, something special, something meaningful. I had rearranged my schedule, worked extra hours, poured my time, money, and effort into making sure everything would be perfect for her. And she had let me plan a party that was never going to happen. She had smiled at me, taken my help, let me run around like an idiot, all while knowing full well that she had already had her baby shower. I pulled into my apartment complex, turned off the car, and just sat there for a moment staring at my hands in my lap. The worst part wasn't even that she had done it. The worst part was that I wasn't even surprised, because the truth was Sophie had always been this way. I don't know why it took me so long to see it, why I had spent my entire life making excuses for her, why I had convinced myself things would change. Maybe because I was the older sister, maybe because I had always been expected to take care of things, to be the responsible one, to be the bigger person, and maybe deep down I had always known she would never do the same for me. Growing up, Sophie had been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. She was the one who made people laugh, the one who knew exactly how to get what she wanted. Her parents adored her, everyone did. She had this effortless charm, this ability to make people fall in love with her without even trying. Me, I was the responsible one, the practical one, the one who didn't need attention or praise or extra support, and because of that I had been overlooked. It had started small little things that should have been red flags, but weren't, like the time we were kids, and I spent weeks saving up my allowance to buy a new backpack for school. Sophie saw it, decided she liked it, and the next day my mom was telling me I should let her have it because she really wanted it. Or the time when we were teenagers and she borrowed my favorite dress for a party, swearing she'd give it back. I never saw it again. When I asked about it, she rolled her eyes and said, "God, Emily, why do you care so much? It's just a dress." Or the time in college when she called me crying because she was failing a class, and I spent weeks helping her study, tutoring her every night, writing out detailed notes so she wouldn't fall behind. She passed the class. She never even said thank you. Now here we were. I had spent months planning her baby shower. I had coordinated every detail, handled every little thing to make sure it would be perfect, and she hadn't even thought to invite me to the one she actually had. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. This wasn't just about the baby shower. This was about a lifetime of being taken for granted. For years, I had convinced myself that it didn't matter, that this was just how Sophie was, that it wasn't personal. But standing in that living room staring at the proof of what she had done, I realized something. It was personal. She had chosen to leave me out. She had chosen to let me waste my time planning something that was never going to happen. She had chosen to take me for granted, and I was done pretending that didn't matter. I grabbed my phone, my fingers hovering over my mom's contact. I almost called her, but then I stopped because I already knew what she was going to say. "Oh, Emily, don't make this into a big thing. You know, Sophie didn't mean it. She probably just forgot." I could already hear her voice dismissing my feelings before I even had the chance to explain them. I wasn't doing that again. I wasn't going to argue or beg for an apology or try to get her to understand why this hurt me. I was just going to let it sit. I set my phone down, grabbed the blanket from the couch, and curled up, exhaustion hitting me all at once. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel the urge to fix things. I just felt tired. The next morning, I woke up to a text from Sophie. "Hey, are you mad at me?" I stared at my phone. Was she serious? She had left me out of the most important event of her pregnancy. She had let me waste my time planning a shower that was never going to happen. She had humiliated me in front of her friends, let me stand there with a bag of decorations like some clueless fool, and now she was asking if I was mad. I locked my phone without responding. A few hours later, another text. "Mom said you're not answering her either. Can you just talk to us?" I didn't reply to that one either. Let them sit with it. A day passed. Then my mom called. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. This time, she left a message. "Emily, I don't know what's going on with you, but you're being really unfair to Sophie. She's pregnant. She doesn't need this stress right now. I clenched my jaw. There was not an apology, not even a real attempt to understand why I might be upset, just another reminder that Sophie's feelings mattered more than mine. I deleted the voicemail, then finally a text from my dad. Hey kiddo, mom's worried. Call her when you get a chance. That was it. No mention of what happened, no acknowledgement that I had a reason to be upset, just the expectation that I would once again be the one to smooth things over. But this time I wasn't going to. For years Sophie had taken me for granted. For years I had let it happen, but not anymore. I wasn't going to explain myself. I wasn't going to justify my feelings. I wasn't going to chase after an apology that was never coming. I was going to do nothing and let them see what it felt like to be left out. I didn't respond to any of them, not Sophie, not my mom, not even my dad. I just let the silence sit at. First, it was almost amusing how quickly they started panicking. Sophie went from passive-aggressive texts to guilt-tripping ones. Emily, seriously, are you going to ignore your pregnant sister? Then a few hours later, I get that you're upset, but this is really childish. And finally, the classic, I can't believe you do this to me, as if I was the one who had done something wrong, as if I had excluded her from something important. I still didn't respond. Then my mom started up again. First it was gentle, sweetie, I think you're blowing this out of proportion. Then firm, this isn't just about you. Emily, your sister is pregnant. She needs support. Then annoyed, I don't know why you're acting like this, but you need to talk to Sophie and sort this out. So I said nothing because for the first time in my life, I wanted them to feel what it was like to be left out. I wasn't answering texts. I wasn't calling. I wasn't checking in on Sophie's pregnancy or asking how she was feeling or pretending like everything was fine just to keep the peace. I was just gone, and apparently that was a problem. By the end of the week, my dad finally called. Not my mom, not Sophie, my dad. That almost made me pick up because my dad never got involved in drama. He was the keep the peace type, the one who let my mom handle everything, the one who always took the path of least resistance. So the fact that he was calling now, that meant they were worried. I let it ring. He left a voicemail. Emily, hey, I don't know what's going on, but your mom and Sophie are really upset. Can you just give me a call back? Leighton talk. I stared at my phone for a long moment, debating. Then I deleted the message. I wasn't playing their game anymore. For once they could be the ones chasing after me. The next few days were quiet, almost too quiet. Then on Saturday, I got a text from my aunt. Hey, are you coming to the family dinner tomorrow? I'd love to see you. Family dinner. I blinked at the message, suddenly realizing what was happening. This wasn't just any dinner, it was one of the big ones, the kind where all the aunts and uncles and cousins got together, the kind where people flew in from out of town and no one had told me about it, the least not Sophie, not my mom. They had planned it without me. I let out a slow breath, staring at the screen. But this time it was different, because someone had noticed my aunt. Someone had realized I was missing. No, now I had a choice. I could stay silent, let them have their little dinner without me, let them assume I was being dramatic or overreacting. I could show up. I texted my aunt back, I'll be there the next evening. I walked into my parents' house and the room went silent. I wasn't dramatic about it. I didn't storm and I didn't make a scene. I just walked in like I belonged there, because I did. My mom was the first to react. Oh, she said, standing up a little too quickly. Emily, you made it. She sounded nervous. Good. Across the room, Sophie's face paled. I smiled. Yeah, Aunt Lisa invited me. I figured, why not? I watched the way my mom glanced at Sophie, the way Sophie swallowed hard, the way a few cousins exchanged awkward looks, because they knew I hadn't been invited. They knew this wasn't a mistake, and suddenly it wasn't just my problem anymore. I took my seat at the table, pretending not to notice the way Sophie was avoiding my gaze. Dinner went on like normal, conversations flowing around me, but I could feel the tension thick in the air. My mom kept trying to act like everything was fine, but her voice was a little too high, a little too forced, and Sophie was barely touching her food. Finally, about halfway through the meal, my uncle, bless his direct, no-filter personality, looked between me and Sophie and said, okay, what's going on? The table went silent again. I raised an eyebrow, feigning innocence. What do you mean, you two? He said, waving his fork between us. You're acting weird. Sophie let out a short, nervous laugh. Nothing's going on. My uncle frowned. Really busy. I heard you had a baby shower and that Emily planned one too. The air got thick. Someone muttered, oh, *T under their breath. Sophie looked trapped. I didn't say anything. I just sipped my drink and waited. And then the best thing happened. My aunt turned to Sophie. Genuine confusion on her face. Wait, you had a baby shower? She asked. Why didn't Emily go? The moment the words left her mouth, I saw Sophie's expression shift. She knew there was no way out of this without looking bad, and the thing about Sophie, she hated looking bad. She forced a tight smile, glancing at me, her voice overly sweet. I meant to tell her. I tilted my head. Really? Because you never did. Now everyone was looking at Sophie, the family members who hadn't known, the ones who assumed I had been at the shower, the ones who were now realizing in real time that Sophie had deliberately left me out for the first time. I saw her get flustered. She laughed awkwardly, shaking her head. It wasn't like that. So what was it like? My uncle pressed. Sophie's face was burning now. She looked at our mom, silently begging for help, but even Mom looked uncomfortable. Because she knew this wasn't something she could brush under the rug, and suddenly Sophie was out of options. She took a deep breath, then turned to me. I'm sorry, she said, barely above a whisper, and the thing was, I could tell it wasn't just for show. He meant it, because for the first time in her life, Sophie was actually facing the consequences of how she treated me, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to forgive her yet, but watching her squirm, yeah, that was a pretty good start. I wasn't sure what I expected Sophie to say after that. Maybe some excuse, maybe some half-hearted attempt to justify what she had done, but instead, she just sat there staring down at her plate, her face bright red, her fingers twisting nervously in her lap. The silence stretched. No one jumped in to save her, not even Mom, and that was the most satisfying part. Sophie had spent her whole life charming her way out of trouble, but this time she had backed herself into a corner, and there was no quick escape. She let out a slow breath and finally looked up at me. I messed up, she said, her voice quiet. I didn't say anything because I wanted her to sit in it. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she had done, to understand, really understand, that this wasn't something she could just laugh off or brush aside. She swallowed hard. I didn't do it to hurt you. I raised an eyebrow. You didn't invite me to your baby shower, I said, keeping my voice steady, but you let me plan another one for months, and you never thought to mention it. She winced, and I saw her glance around the table, realizing that every single person was watching, waiting, expecting a real answer. I should have told you, she admitted, her voice tight. I don't know, I thought maybe you'd be mad, or that you'd make it a big deal, or that I'd be mad. I cut in, feeling a bitter laugh bubble up. You didn't tell me because you knew it was wrong, Sophie. You knew you were leaving me out, and you didn't want to deal with the consequences. She opened her mouth, then shut it again because she couldn't argue with that. She had known. She just never thought I'd actually do anything about it. I leaned back in my chair, folding my arms. So why now? She blinked. What? Why are you apologizing now? I asked, tilting my head. You didn't care before. You didn't care when I showed up at your house with decorations and gifts like an idiot. You didn't care when I stopped answering your texts. So why do you care now? Her face flushed even deeper because she knew the answer, because she had been caught, and because for the first time our family wasn't taking her side. She let out a shaky breath, her hands tightening into fists on the table. Because I miss you, she admitted, barely above a whisper. That threw me off. I had expected more excuses, maybe another round of "come on, Emily, you're being dramatic," or "I didn't think it was that big of a deal," but this felt real. I studied her, trying to figure out if this was just another attempt to manipulate me, but for once she looked small, not the Sophie who had always been the center of attention, not the Sophie who could talk her way out of anything, just my sister, and for the first time in a long time, she actually looked sorry. I let out a slow breath, tapping my fingers against the table. I don't know if I can just forgive you, I said honestly, because this isn't just about the baby shower, it's about everything. It's about the fact that you've spent our entire lives taking me for granted. She nodded, looking down at her hands. I know, she said. I wasn't sure if she really knew, not yet, but maybe she was starting to. The tension in the room was so thick I could barely breathe, and I could feel my mom fidgeting beside me, desperate to jump in and smooth things over, but for once she didn't. For once she let Sophie sit in the discomfort. Sophie cleared her throat and forced a weak smile. Can we try again? I mean, I know I screwed up, but I don't want to lose you. And the worst part, one believed her. I believed that she didn't want to lose me, but that didn't mean I was ready to just forget everything. I need time, I said. I can't just pretend this didn't happen. She nodded quickly. Of course, yeah, I get it. For once she wasn't pushing, she wasn't trying to force me to let it go, to move on just because it was easier for her. He was actually listening, and that was new. Dinner continued after that, but something had shifted. I could feel it. I wasn't invisible anymore. People were seeing me in a way they hadn't before. They were noticing for the first time that maybe, just maybe, I hadn't been the problem all these years. After dinner, as people were saying their goodbyes, my aunt pulled me aside. I had no idea. She said, shaking her head, "I thought you were at the shower. I just assumed." I smiled tightly. "Yeah, so did a lot of people." He squeezed my hand. "I hope she makes it up to you." I nodded, not sure what to say, because I wasn't sure either, but at least for the first time Sophie was trying. A few days later, she texted me again. "Hey, I know you're still mad, but I really wanted to fix things. Can I come over this weekend just to talk?" I stared at the message for a long time, then finally I typed back, "Okay, not I forgive you, not it's fine, just okay," because fixing things, that was going to take time. But for the first time in our lives, Sophie was the one putting in the effort, and maybe, just maybe, that was a start.